we talk about pretty quickly, which is, it is what it is. But, yeah, with last Wednesday's game being an afternoon game, we kind of brushed through that one last Wednesday already, and then yesterday's game being what it is, and then today's being taking place tonight. We only have 5 Brewer games to talk about today, but, so we're going to start with the Brewers today. So we're back on another Wednesday on the Wisco Fanatics show. I think we have some interesting talks to have today. Not just for baseball, but also for Brewers, baseball, but also for Badgers football. We're actually going to have Scary Alvarez joining us from Twitter a little bit later when we switch to talk about the Badgers. And we wanted to bring him in and let him share his viewpoint, because we didn't want to basically take his tweets that he put out and share them as our own. We wanted to give him the opportunity to share his thoughts, because I think he said things in a way that is probably better than we could have said them even. So we're going to let him put that out there when we switch to Badgers football. But we're going to start with the Brewers. And, we're such a weird team. The Brewers are. It's so weird that they've gone so back and forth. And last Wednesday we sat here and we're like, all right, well, maybe next Wednesday we'll have a little bit of a better idea of what this team's going to be. Maybe they'll be in by then. Maybe they'll be out by then, and we'll know. And here we are a week later, still wondering.
Exact same spot.
Exactly. It's the exact same spot. There's 8 games to go. They're a game and a half back. So we're still in a position of they're not eliminated. They're not out of it yet. We're in such a weird spot, and it's something we haven't dealt with in the last 4 years with the Brewers because they've been in. 2020 was weird because the Brewers were like 30 and 31 or something like that and still got in because they expanded the playoffs to 8 teams that year. But you're in, so it is what it is. But like, it's a really weird spot to be. It feels weird. It's like they've gone through some really rough stretches. They've gone through, an 8-game losing streak in June, losing to the Pirates and the Cubs coming out of the All-Star break and the trade deadline. I mean, we could start with the Reds series and start with game 1, but it's like I said, it's just a weird spot to be in. So, I mean, we can start with the Reds. Start there. Let's talk about game 1 of the Reds series.
Before we continue, it's like the Phillies are allowing us to stay in it, though, because every time we lose, they lose.
I know.
And it's so frustrating. It's like, of course they lost to the Cubs. Now they're going to win the next 2 or the next 1 or whatever they play against the Cubs. And it's going to be like, are you kidding me? The one that they freaking lost to the Cubs, we lost. But it is what it is.
I have something on that when we get to what's next for the Brewers. So
yeah. We'll start with the first game here. Brewers won this one 5-1. This was last Thursday. Woody was on the mound. 6 innings pitched, 3 hits, 1 earned run, 2 walks, and 11 Ks. Phil's is messing with us. Yeah, they are. So, again, another great start from Woody. He looks fantastic. Strzelecki, Bush, Cousins, they all look fantastic in this one. Nothing really to report there from the bullpen. The player of this game, though, even if you liked Woody's start, was definitely Colton Wong. 3 home runs, 5 RBIs. He was the entire offense for the Brewers. So, hats off to him, man. This second half, he's been pretty damn good, man. It'd be hard for me to get rid of him, seeing what he can be. He just has to do it for the entire season, because he was kind of a letdown, if you look at it that way, the first half.
Yeah.
Not much of a letdown, but he was a letdown. There wasn't really a lot of people hitting the baseball good for the Brewers. But the second half, I think he's been pretty consistent, pretty good. Yeah.
The thing with Colton Wong is that normally, if he's going through some offensive struggles, is that his defense usually still gives him a lot of value, similar to the way that Lorenzo Cain was for the last couple of years. And this year, that kind of hasn't been the case. Colton Wong has struggled on defense for pretty much like the first time in his career. And it happened again. He was trying to make a jump throw. I don't remember. I think that was in Sunday's game. He's trying to make like a jump throw. It just really wasn't a necessary play at that point in the game, and ended up causing an error. But it's or like the last week when he had his foot 2 inches away from the bag instead of on the bag on a play that Willie Adames made. It's just stuff like that. It's kind of uncharacteristic of Colton Wong, but this was his first career 3 home run game, and it also set his career high for home runs in a season. So he's up to 15 home runs this season. That's his career high, breaking his career high that he tied last year with 14. So going into there was a play that actually got hit to as a flyout to Hunter Renfro. He had to come really far in on it, but the runner, the Reds were trying to do a hit and run. So dude takes off from first base. Colton Wong sees the ball hit up into the air and runs to second base like a throw is coming. And the dude is like running, trying to get to second base, thinking that a throw's coming to second base. And then the ball is actually caught in the outfield and he's thrown back to first for a super easy double play. So Colton Wong kind of tricked a runner. That happens again later on when we talk about some of these other games that a runner gets tricked. Brandon Woodruff pitched 6 innings, gave up 3 hits, 2 walks, only the 1 earned run, 11 strikeouts. He is rapidly climbing that double-digit strikeout list. He's going to be behind Corbin Burns pretty quick. He got a double play actually too. Brandon Woodruff did. He got a double play right before the only home run that he gave up was a solo shot. He got a double play right before that, so it could have easily been, 2 or 3 home run or 2 or 3 run home run. Only ended up being a solo shot, being the only run that the Reds scored that day. His ERA over his last 15 games, 2.55. That's Cy Young stuff right there. 2.55 ERA. Corbin Burns won it last year with a 2.43, so that's pretty good stuff. So we can go to, that's pretty much the gist of the game. I will say, for Cincinnati, Hunter Green is going to be a very good pitcher. Like, he's already a good pitcher, but he's going to be a very good pitcher for them. What's up, Simon? He's going to be a good pitcher. Like Cincinnati, like I have no problem admitting when other teams have good players. Cincinnati has a good one in Hunter Green. That dude's got some crazy velocity. All right, let's go to game 2 of the Reds series.
All right, game 2. Brewers won this one as well. They started stacking wins when they needed them, so I started to feel good. But again, the Phillies kept winning when we were winning, and it was like, are you kidding? And they were playing the Braves, so it was like super annoying. But it is what it is. We won this one 5-3. Lauer went 2 2/3 in this one. 5 hits, 2 earned runs, 3 walks, and 3 Ks. So not the best showing for Eric Lauer. Perdomo came in this game 3 1/3, looked very good. Only 1 hit, the 4 Ks. Boxberger, Bush, and Williams, all very good. None of them earned runs. 3 Ks by Williams, 2 Ks by Boxberger, and the 1 walk from Bush. The milestone in this game was McCutchen getting his 1,000th RBI.
Yes. Yep.
So that's very important. He had 3 in this game, which got him to 69 on the season.
Nice.
Carantini, 31 RBIs. McCutchen and Carantini both had doubles in this game. Carantini's 10th double of the year and McCutchen 24th. Brewers actually hit a lot of doubles.
They really do.
Yeah.
You find that with power hitting teams that they end up hitting a lot of doubles because they hit a lot of hard hit balls that bounce off the wall and get down the lines and stuff like that. So I think that kind of ties in a little bit there. But with this game, Eric Lauer had kind of a rocky start. He did give up 2 runs, but he did also strand the bases loaded. So that's, the damage could have been worse, and obviously it ended up working out for the Brewers. I want to bring up Luis Perdomo because he pitched so well. I actually tweeted it out, and it's one of those tweets that actually aged flawlessly. I tweeted out that he got the 3rd out in the 3rd inning on 3 pitches. He got a strikeout on 3 pitches to end the 3rd inning, and I'm like, oh, you got 3 pitches for a 3-pitch strikeout to end the 3rd inning. If he can have a quick 4th, 5th, 6th inning, that would be great. And sure enough, he gets a clean 4th, 5th, 6th inning, and the Brewers are rolling. Jake mentioned the other 2 the other two relievers that came in, and then Devin Williams came in for the last out of the 8th inning, struck out the side in the 9th inning. This was the game where Colton Wong had the jump throw error. Christian Yelich was on base 3 times this game. That 4-out save was also Devin Williams' second this year. Everybody in the lineup had a hit, and the Brewers drew 6 walks in this game.
That's impressive.
The thing that sucks about it, and we've talked about it at tons of times on how to fix it, is 12 guys left on base and 2 for 15 with runners in scoring position. Which is tough. That's a tough spot to be in. But
we've seen it too many times.
Right. And that said, if the Brewers can win a game like that, like, I mean, you just take it and move on to the next one.
Mm-hmm.
I will say with Eric Lauer being back, he was going to be on a short leash, just like Ashby and Peralta for their first games back, because they had no rehab appearances. They didn't go down to Nashville and throw 4 innings in AAA or anything like that. Like, this was his first thing back after doing just bullpen work. So I think it should be expected that these guys were going to be on a short leash. But Let's go to the 3rd game of that Reds series. Basically another hero for this one too. So what did you see in that 3rd game?
Yeah, the offense exploded. There wasn't one guy that was the offense, even though Renfro had a very good game.
Yes.
With 2 home runs and the 5 RBIs, which got him to 68. And I was like, couldn't get one
so
more.
So close.
We could have had it back-to-back, you son of a bitch. Taylor, Narvaez, Urias, all 2-out RBIs. Tellez, another homer, 33 on the year. Renfro got to 27 after his 2. Corbin Burns, pretty good outing. This is kind of what you expect from him. 6 1/3, 4 hits, 2 earned runs. I mean, the 3 walks is kind of, but 8 Ks. Yeah. That's what he does. Trevor got 2/3 of an inning pitch. Nothing across the board. Rogers gave up 1 walk in his inning, but no earned runs. And Suter 2 Ks. No earned runs, no walks for him. So the bullpen was pretty damn good against the Reds. I'll say that. Pretty damn good.
Yeah, and with the batting order this game, Christian Yelich was the only one hitless, but he did draw a walk and score, so everybody in the batting order was on base. The Brewers only struck out 4 times in this game. That is awesome. I would love to see that every game, to see the Brewers only strike out 4 times, be putting the ball in play that much. They only left 5 guys on base, and they were 5 for 11 with runners in scoring position. That, to me, is a big number, that 5 for 11 with runners in scoring position.
They had more hits with runners in scoring position than strikeouts. That's what you need to see.
I like that. That's a really good way to look at that. That's huge. I like that a lot. More hits with runners in scoring positions than strikeouts. That's good stuff. So, I had a lot to unpack with this one. Bottom of the 6th inning, Willy Adames gets a nice backhand pick and throw out to first base, and then in the top of the 7th, he comes and hits an RBI double. So defense feeding into the offense there. Hunter Renfro, I have a lot of stuff with Hunter Renfro. So it was his first home run since September 6th. So he had gone almost 3 weeks without a home run. It's his second 2-run home run game, or third 2-home run game this season. His second in Cincinnati.
Oh.
He tied his career high with 4 hits. He's done that 5 times, twice as a Brewer. And this was his 4th career 5 RBI game. And now this is the crazy thing. He is tied for second in home runs at Great American Ballpark this year with 8 with Joey Votto.
No way.
Yes.
No freaking way.
Brendan Drury has the most. He has 12. After that, Joey Votto and Hunter Renfro are tied for the second most home runs in Cincinnati this year.
That's insane. Holy shit.
That is awesome.
And freaking Joey Votto is sitting with the fans in the stands.
Yeah. Which is cool. Like, I like Joey Votto. Like, I feel bad that he's stuck in Cincinnati. Like, I wish he could be on the Brewers, but yeah. So yeah, Hunter Renfro tied for second most home runs at Great American Ballpark this year.
Wow.
as a visiting player.
That's crazy.
So yeah, I mean, Omar had an opposite field single. Tyrone Taylor had an opposite field single. Those two both scored runs after the Hunter Renfro home run. What I wanted to note about that is obviously the opposite field hits. I've been keeping track of that because I think that's something that the Brewers could do to improve their offense. But it was also good to see the Brewers tack on some more runs after a home run was hit in that inning.
Yeah.
So that's something that I got really a lot of encouragement from, was seeing the rally restarted after a home run, and not just guys going up, kind of, not as aggressively or not as focused, because they're thinking like, oh, all right, Hunter already hit a home run this inning. We already got 3 runs in this inning, so we're good if I strike out or if I just ground out.
Mm-hmm.
So it was good to see that rally restarted. So I did actually get some encouragement from that. It was so close to being able to get a 4-game sweep. I mean, I think going 3-1 on a 4-game series, I think, is something you would take. I mean, it's a series win. Obviously, the Brewers would love to go undefeated for the rest of the year, but I don't think that's an expectation. I think that's more of a hope, not an expectation, that the Brewers would finish the season undefeated. But let's go to the 4th game of that Brewers Reds series.
All right. Well, Brewers, Peralta started this game, 2 innings pitched. He had he gave up 2 hits, no earned runs, 3 Ks. Ashby came in 1 2/3, 2 hits, 1 earned run, 2 walks for Ashby. He does struggle with walks, but as he gets better command of his pitches, believe us, he has great stuff. He can,
he's got great stuff. There's no doubt about that.
He could be a high-end starter if he gets better command of those pitches and takes the walk total down. He'll start striking a lot of people out. Strzelecki, got Bush and Boxberger all win an inning in this game. 2 hits between those 4 pitchers, 1 earned run, and 5 strikeouts, 0 walks as well. So, like I said, the bullpen was not the problem in this series at all.
I agree.
Renfro hit a home run, got to 28 and 69 RBIs.
Nice.
Let's go, baby.
It was kind of a bummer because I saw Matt Bush getting a lot of flack for losing this game for the Brewers. They ended up losing 2-1.
Mm-hmm.
I think a little bit more needs to be just put on the whole team. It's a team game. For the Brewers to only score 1 run the day after scoring 10, I think is a little less excusable than Matt Bush giving up a solo home run.
And the fact that they know that they're still out of the playoffs and they have to win, and you got an opponent that you should be beating. And I understand that they beat them 3 times in a row, but we need all the wins.
Right. Yeah, this isn't June anymore. We're not in the position, where it's like it's still early or there's a lot of games left. When you let a 2-1 game get away from you, it's more of a bummer, and I get it. So what I will say is I feel like the Brewers got a little swing happy after scoring 10 runs the day before. If I'm being honest, I feel that's kind of how they were. They're like, oh yeah, we were hitting everything yesterday. We can swing a little more today, and it just didn't translate. Again, I said this with Hunter Green, and I'll say it again with Nick Lodolo. He's a good pitcher. Cincinnati's got a couple of good young pitchers. They need a lot more position players. They're probably 6 or 7 players away from being, in a contention position again. But they have a couple of nice young pitchers. That being said, yeah, I mean, speaking of young pitchers, I mean, we go to Freddie Peralta and Aaron Ashby. Those two also no rehab appearances. They are just boom back. What is encouraging with this is that Freddie Peralta said that after he was done, that he felt good after he was done pitching. Aaron Ashby, like Jake said, he got hurt by the walks and the hit by pitch. We know the command is tough for him at times. It's obviously going to be something he spends the entire offseason working on, which is really encouraging because if Aaron Ashby spends his offseason working on his command and he comes back and he's got 5 pitches that he can throw anywhere on the plate or in the strike zone, he's going to be good. He's going to be real good. And that contract the Brewers signed him to is going to look just insanely like a steal.
Oh, yeah.
So plenty of time to develop that. I mean, he's what, 26, 27?
In baseball years, he's a baby.
Yeah, right. Especially for a pitcher too. I mean, it's not
Yeah,
like he's
that's something that people probably don't understand is like baseball is different than football. Where like at 26, 27, you're kind of in your prime in football. You know,
right.
in basketball, your prime starts probably 28, 29. You see people be good when they're young in
Right.
basketball and football and shit.
There's a
But
lot of
when the
IQ to
mind,
basketball to be in
yeah,
prime.
when the mind catches up with the body, like Giannis, his mind is catching up to his body, and you can tell because he's literally like he was the most efficient player for the last couple of years, in my opinion,
Mhm.
scoring the ball, everything that he does. But
Him
now
and
his head, he's seeing the play before it happens, so now
Yep.
he's just scoring even easier. It's
Yep.
ridiculous.
um. So the Brewers struck out 10 times as a team, only drew one walk. So that's where I really get into that feeling where it feels like they were like up there swinging, not trying to take as many pitches. Um.
Mhm.
Only 6 base runners, and I saw Keston Hira getting a lot of flack too. Um. He It's such a unfortunate thing. Keston here is standing on second base. Tyrone Taylor rips a ball up the middle that would have been an RBI single, but you can't really fault Keston here for that. Like he hears the crack of the bat and he takes off. Like you're not jumping out of the way of a ball that's hit 105 miles an hour off the bat. It's just one of those things where it happens and it's like it's baseball. It's not something you look at Keston Hero and go, "How do you let the ball hit you?" Like I saw a
Oh, there
lot
was
of
people that did it.
that. Which is unfortunate. Like I guarantee you're not jumping out of a ball that's coming at you that quickly, especially when you're in baseball mode and you're thinking like, all right, crack of the bat, I gotta go. Because I think it was 2 outs at that point too. So you're even more like crack of the bat, I gotta go. If there's an error, I can score. If it gets through, I should score. It's really an unfortunate thing that the ball hit him, and it's really not anything that people need to be freaking out and bashing Keston Hero for.
Yeah,
I think that was a bit unnecessary for people that were doing that.
I agree.
I do want to give Strzelecki some credit for stranding the bases loaded. Also, when he came in, he stranded the bases loaded, so it was good to see that. And then this was the other game where the Brewers pulled off a really nice fake. So Victor Caratini had a ball that was going kind of dribbling up the third baseline. He
Mhm.
grabbed the ball, faked to throw to first, and I don't remember who it was. I think it might have been Friedel. Came running around third base, and as Victor Caratini faked the throw to first,
Mhm.
he took off, and Caratini was able to just turn around and tag him. So that was a nice defensive play by Victor Caratini. But like I said, we would like to see the Brewers pull a 4-game sweep because we're getting to this position where, like, obviously games are must win. We're kind of out of the, we're not in the, there's more games to go yet situation anymore. There's 8 games to go,
Mhm.
and the Brewers need to win them all
Yes, they
and
do.
hope that Philadelphia loses 2 more than the Brewers do. Basically, where we're at.
Well, if they can get a win, tonight against the Cardinals, and the Phillies lose, we will have a good chance because we'll
Yeah,
only need
and
we'll
it's
only need to do
it's
it one more time after
when
that.
we get let's talk about this Cardinals game, and then I want to talk a little bit about what the end of the season looks like. So let's talk about last night's game.
Okay. Here we go. So last night, Hauser left the game hurt. 3 and a third, 2 hits, 3 earned runs, 4 walks, and the 3 Ks. In my opinion, he's probably done in Milwaukee. Especially with all the young pitching that we have down in the minors. Be tough for me to see a scenario, with him struggling, injured on and off. This was a tough year for Adrian Hauser. Probably
Mm-hmm.
mentally, and physically, obviously.
It
Um,
sucks. I felt really bad for him too, because like listening to him
yeah.
talk about it after the game, he's like, it sucks. He's like, I felt like I was finally getting into a groove, and he's like,
Hmm.
I wanted to get out of that inning. I have us only down 2-0, and get the guys in to start batting. Like you could tell, like it sucked for him going through it.
Yeah. It's just one of those situations, man. It is what it is, man. Nothing you can do about it. It's out of your hands. But Suter, he pitched in this game, gave up 2 earned runs, 2 hits, and a K in his inning. Got Milner and Rogers all pitched 1 1/3. 5 hits between them, an earned run, a walk, and 3 Ks. 2 hits for Gott, 2 hits for Milner, and a hit for Rogers. Strzelecki, again, lockdown. The guy gave up 1 walk and had 1 K in his 2/3, but Tellez had a homer, 34 homers on the year for Tellez. The problem with Tellez is he doesn't hit for average.
Yeah.
If he hit for average, I mean, think about this. He has 34 home runs and only 87 RBIs. He needs to be an RBI producer, with as much power as he has. I appreciate it, and I love that he has 34 home runs. If he hit for average, he'd have north of 40 home runs right now.
And the thing with that too is that Craig Counsell's been in a tough spot this entire season, dealing with all the injuries the Brewers have had to basically everybody but Corbin Burns. The cleanup position has not been a consistent one.
No.
He's had Luis Urias in there. I think he had Christian Yelich in there a couple times early in the year. He's had Colton Wong in there. He's had Brasso in there. He's had Renfro and Tellez and like maybe even Willie Adames. I think he's had Keston Hira in the cleanup spot. Like it's been a revolving door. I think I'm not gonna lie, don't quote me on this, but I think Colton Wong had 1 game where he batted cleanup. I think there was 1 game, but not having that consistent, where for like 2008 to like 2012, it was Ryan Braun and Prince Fielder. That was 3 and 4 every single game, and you knew it, and you knew Ryan Braun was going to get pitches to hit because Prince Fielder was behind him,
and they didn't want to pinch to him.
Yeah, they did not. And then a lot of times it was like Casey McGee batting 5th, and he would, get a decent amount of home runs.
He made the All-Star game.
Yeah,
it's pretty good, man.
So, not having that consistency in the middle of the order, when we get to the offseason, that might be something interesting for us to take a look at and kind of evaluate how the season went. Is look at that middle of the order and that lack of consistency there. Because once they switched Christian Yelich to the leadoff spot, he really started playing very well. So, getting to that point, if they could get that consistency from, 2 through 5, it would be a lot different for the offense potentially. I think Luis Urias is a guy that factors into that. I think they were kind of hoping he could take a step forward average wise. He does have a little bit of sneaky power. He didn't hit as many home runs as he did last year, but still a little bit of time left in the season. But, just consistency. We know the Brewers have the talent. We know they have the ability. They took 2 out of 3 from the Yankees. They've had series where they've done things that, it kind of seems like, maybe the Brewers won some games they shouldn't. Obviously, they've done the opposite as well. But, the capability is there. It's just like I've said for the last 2 weeks, it's going to come down to execution. And that's still what we're looking at. We're still looking at execution. There's 8 games to go, and the Brewers still aren't in or out yet. I will say, Craig Counsell did say after the game, actually he said it before the game, I should say, all hands on deck. Brewers will be looking for the best ways to get 27 outs for the last 8 games. Lauer is scheduled to make a start already, but he did say that Freddie Peralta and Aaron Ashby could be starters or bullpen guys. Granted, he said this before Hauser got injured, but the Brewers did put Hauser on the 15-day injured list today and call up Justin Topa, who's a reliever. So it's probably a little more likely that Freddie and Ashby end up making starts instead of relief appearances. But we still got a chance to get in. It's not over till it's over. Everything weird that can happen in baseball will eventually happen.
Watch him get in on the last day, bro.
Dude, right? Like, it'll be so sweaty. Like, it'll be – God, that's what it's going to be. Like, they're going to be playing a home game against Arizona, and the Phillies are going to lose that day. So they'll be, a half game back or tied or whatever. And, it'll be like the 8th inning, and you'll find out the Phillies lost and the Brewers are in like a 0-0 pitcher duel or some shit.
I'll be like, are you kidding?
Like, whatever the maximum amount of stress that the season could end in, like that's how it'll go, right?
Top of the 10th, tied at 4.
Oh God, I'm already
we need to win.
Out. I'm already stressed out just thinking about the extra runner on second base.
Oh, right. That's why I said extra innings.
Oh,
like imagine that. Like if you win, you're in, and they're in a tie game, I'd be like, are you kidding me right now?
Just put Devin Williams out there. I don't even care.
Yeah,
like, just let Devin Williams pitch for 6 innings. So you mentioned Rowdy Tellez hitting his 34th home run.
Mm-hmm.
Garrett Mitchell did well, actually. He had 2 hits out of the Brewers' 6. His batting average is actually up to 292.
The cardiac crew.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, so Garrett Mitchell actually has his batting average up to 292. What was it just 3 weeks ago when people are like, should we be concerned about Garrett Mitchell being 0 for his last 12 after batting well when he came up? That's why you need to just be a little bit patient. Like,
I was watching a little bit of this game. It did seem like he was having a little bit of trouble in the field. Probably 1 or 2 catchable balls that he could have made plays on. But I expect him to really take a jump next year, with a full off season, around the guys, around the coaching staff, learning ins and outs. I mean, he's got the speed. He's got a little bit of I think he's going to be a good
speed.
I think he's going to be the average guy. I think he's going to be a stolen base guy.
Yep.
And just wreak some havoc on the bases and play good defense. And I am 100% okay with that.
He hit a ground ball to second base and got a single out of it. He just hit like a legit routine ground ball to second base and got a single.
Not a baby.
So the Phillies lost yesterday. Obviously, the Brewers lost. It's tough because, the Cardinals clinched the division yesterday. So they got to celebrate, that they won the division. The Brewers have been that team before. The Brewers have been the super hot team that clinches the division right before the end of the season. They celebrated in St. Louis. It's tough. So the Brewers have been that team. It happened to the Brewers this year. It's tough. The Brewers are a game and a half back. They need to make up 2.5. So before we do our power pair, I want to bring this up because Philadelphia is on a 10-game road trip to end the season. The Brewers are on a 10-game homestand to end the season. Or I should say 9-game homestand. Sorry. 9-game homestand to end the season. The Phillies have 2 more in Chicago. They have 4 in Washington and then 3 in Houston.
See, that Houston series is like, I'm licking my chops a little bit, man.
The Brewers have 1 more with St. Louis tonight. They have 4 with Miami and 3 with Arizona. All at home.
God, I like our chances, but it's just
like, I know it's such it's such a compromising place to be.
I don't want to say I like it because of this fucking team.
I know, I get it.
Fucking
I know.
Just fucking win the rest of your games, and you're definitely in.
Just take it over and then hold on to it. Fuck.
Just win every game, 9 in a row, and then you'll definitely be in because I know the Phillies are losing a couple in their next 10.
Yeah.
Guarantee that.
Yeah, they have. Oh, now as of yesterday, they have 9 to go. The Brewers have 8 to go.
They're losing at least 1 to the Astros, and they're
basically
they're dropping 1 to the Nationals. I guarantee that they're dropping 1 to the Nationals, dropping 1 to the Astros. That's your 2 right there.
If the Brewers basically need to win 2 more games than the Phillies, basically where they're at. If the Phillies go like 8-1.
The margin for error is small.
It's small, but
telling me there's a chance.
Telling me there's a chance. Just this much. just this much. If it's mathematically possible, it'll happen in baseball. It will happen. It might not happen this year, but it will happen.
I hope they're one of those people that give them an inch and they take a mile. That's all I'm saying.
That's all it is. All you need to do is get in. Get in, get hot, and you win. Just win the whole damn thing. Major League style. I couldn't resist. So that's what's next for the Brewers. I swear to God, dude, if we're here next Wednesday and we're still doing are they in or are they not in? I'm going to lose my shit.
And, I agree with you. I'm kind of at the point where I'm like, just make up your mind. You're acting like a woman right now.
Just get in here. All right.
Tell me
hit
what you want for
with
dinner, okay?
Hit me with your power pair, and then we are going to switch to the Badgers.
All right. So my hitter, I actually did pick Colton Wong.
Oh.
I went with Colton Wong because I feel like I haven't gave him much love in the second half. And like I said, he was pretty consistent. Obviously, he had the big game where he had the 3 home runs and the 5 RBIs. That's what he ended the week with, was 3 home runs and 5 RBIs. But he was 6 of 16, so that's a 375 average. Scored 4 runs, 3 walks. I mean, he was good. Do you want me to do my pitcher right away?
Sure.
I picked Strzelecki. He's had a
Did
lot
I?
of. Did you? Yeah, he's had a lot of up and downs this season, man. That's kind of a trend of mine. I like to give love to guys when they're trending up and they're playing well. You know, I like to build people's confidence. So, Strzelecki, 3 innings pitched, 1 hit, 0 earned runs, 1 walk, and 3 Ks. He was phenomenal this week.
I also went with Strzelecki for my pitcher. He's got his ERA down to 3.06.
That's not bad, actually.
That's pretty good. I went with Renfro for my hitter just because, or my position player. Just he's on a 4-game hitting streak now. He did a whole bunch of career things against Cincinnati last week. 8 hits, 3 home runs, 6 RBI, and 6 runs scored all in the last week. So a pretty strong week from Hunter Renfro.
And he's at 69 RBI. So
Yeah. That'll do. Is there anything else Brewers related that you want to do before we switch to Badgers?
No. I really hope that they get in the playoffs. I really do.
I do too. And
I want that badly.
If we get into a situation where it's like, okay, like red alert time, the Brewers are in, maybe we can do an emergency live or something like that. But
I know you saw that post. What the hell was that on? God damn it. Was that on Facebook? It might have been on Twitter, where people were voting if they wanted the Brewers to make the playoffs. And you commented, who the hell is voting no?
Who says no? Like,
I'm thinking the same thing. Like, who the hell cheers for a team is just like, I hope they don't make it. Fuck
yeah, I hope they miss the playoffs.
Yeah,
then they'll fire Counsell and Stearns. Like, who says no? It's just, and it's what it ends up coming down to is such a negative mindset. And it's really sad because this is the thing we get to with the Badgers, and we're going to welcome in Scary Alvarez, which is exciting. It's cool to have because he's got a big following on Twitter. So how are you doing, Scary Alvarez?
Mr. Alvarez.
Doing pretty well. How y'all doing?
Good. So this is tough because we know the Badgers lost big. Like, it's not a secret, It's unfortunate. So the Badgers come in unranked to face the number 3 team in the country, and they get blown out, and all of the negativity comes out. Literally all of it. All of the negativity you could possibly imagine comes out and gets thrown at the Badgers, whether it's fire Chris or Graham Mertz ain't it, or recruiting is terrible. And you put out a really long thread that I think explains it better than I could have. As far as Paul Chris and the recruiting. So I will let you go ahead and give your basically your thread on that, because I think it's something that bears hearing for Badger fans.
I agree.
Yeah, well, first of all, let me say what a tremendous honor this is for both of you.
Well played.
I was wondering if he was gonna go there. Yeah, I'm like, yeah,
played.
no, we're excited to have you, dude.
Yeah, right.
I mean, I'm excited to be on with myself here. This is always a thrill. And I also would like to thank you for having the Brewers be the lead-in for this. So this actually seems like the more optimistic of the chat today.
We'll see.
I mean, I'm not counting them out or anything, but my God. All right. Well,
yeah.
So I appreciate the lead-in, and certainly I'd like this to be as much of an exchange as possible. People know how shy I am and how reluctant I am to share my opinions. So feel free to bop in any time. But the gist of what I was saying in this thread, and I'm on Twitter at Barry is the Dawn. Shockingly, that handle wasn't taken when I signed up. Is that all is not lost with this program, and those of you on the platform on Twitter know I tend to be fairly optimistic to the point where people call me a homer and they say I'm nuzzling Chris' boobs and whatever colorful. Is this a family show? I don't want to the kids.
Yeah, you can swear like it's
go
not a big
crazy,
deal.
buddy.
Like
go
this,
crazy.
Like I've heard on your point of nuzzling under Chris and being called a homer. Like I've been told that I believe in unicorns and rainbows because I choose to be optimistic. I've been told head in the clouds time and time again, sunshines and rainbows. It's all coach talk because we choose to take an optimistic mindset instead of a pessimistic one, or the quote unquote people love to say that, oh, I'm a realist, which is just a mask that pessimism wears, in my opinion. I mean, did you see the tweets that Ben Brust put out before the Badgers and Ohio State game started?
I actually did not see those. I was on my wine island putting up a new distillery. But yeah, what would happen there?
So Ben Brust tweeted out about an hour before game time. He says Graham Mertz will throw 2 interceptions, and this is the least excited I've been for a Badger Ohio State game since 2010.
Since I became a fan in 2010.
Okay, well, let me, and I'll launch back into the bigger thing. But first of all, I like Brust. He's a good dude. It's not just because he hit the Michigan shot. He's a pretty thoughtful dude. And I know he deeply loves Wisconsin. So that is where all coming from. But I think what that probably is it's a microcosm of the larger issue with the fan base right now, and is that we are so prepared to lose against good teams. It's almost like it's a self-fulfilling prophecy at this point. Yeah. And it's people say this negative stuff, I think partially because they believe it, but maybe more importantly, almost like to soften the blow when it happens. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And in Ben's defense, I don't think there were too many Badger fans or people associated with the program. I'm not talking about the players or coaches, but people who are around it, who are feeling great about sliding into Ohio Stadium at 7:30 on a blackout day, that we're going to go in there and steamroll. But I do think ultimately you go into that hope in your heart, and I don't think there were too many fans who were real happy with being down 28-0. However many minutes in. So I'm not saying he was proven correct, but that sort of what is going to happen next when we play good teams. Oh shit, is it this again? Mindset is definitely a thing, and it justifiably is a thing.
Well, okay, so
I mean, I can keep going, but that was sort of my thought on that particular.
I'm just digesting what you said, and the thing that I'm going to say to that is, you're a Badger great. If you're Ben Brust, people look at you, and you were a recent player. You're on good teams. Like you won a lot of games. Like you put Wisconsin basketball on the national map. For me, if you're a player and you see like a former, Badger great saying stuff, what does that do for your confidence? We should be picking each other up. And, those people that are like, oh, we're going to get steamrolled. We're going to lose. Ohio State's going to kick our ass. Well, to me, those people are losers, and they don't fight for anything in their lives. Yeah, it was going to be a tough game. And no, I really didn't expect us to go in there and absolutely demolish Ohio State. But I also didn't expect us to get fucking steamrolled either,
Right, exactly.
So it's a tough place to be, and I get it. But if you're Ben Brust and you got young kids, that are from Wisconsin that may look up to you, that's a bad look for the program if a former Badger is talking about it that way. That's just my opinion,
especially before the game.
Yeah, I mean, I can see that perspective. And, the good news is, what it does to the fan base is one thing. But, knowing what I know about the locker room and the makeup of these kids, at least in the program now, is that wouldn't make one bit of damn difference. I mean, so I understand what you're saying as far as like, potential recruits or the fan base and the general aura around the Badger program. But that doesn't matter one damn thing to the team. So, we can talk about, the mindset that team came out with and how they clawed or didn't claw in that game. That's another issue altogether. But it wasn't because some Ben Brust said. I mean,
right.
And it's tricky because I am hugely supportive of this thing that I built. If there was a Mount Rushmore, I say three of the things would be Alvarez, and then we figure out the fourth one. But probably Jake Ferguson. But and people say Joe, and People always ask me about Joe Ferguson, and I have no idea who that is or what they're talking about. So,
You got a brother
anyway,
that's coming up, or
that alleged that's I don't know. I guess that's the story. I got
there's another Sanborn brother who's a freshman this year who's playing linebacker, but he's hurt.
Yeah. He's apparently pretty good young player, and I got to get him healthy. But he'll be one of those redshirt kids that'll come in and be all Big Ten when he's a junior or something like that. But
That's what happens.
I don't even know where I was going with this. But I try and be. We kind of at the outset of the show, I alluded to this, but I try to be positive because that's who I am. And you don't inherit a Don Morton team that won 6 games in 3 years, come in and think you can go to the Rose Bowl in 4 years if you don't believe that it can. You got to have that optimistic perspective, and I always keep that. Something though to orient Wisconsin fans with this is a lot of the frustration and disillusionment that we're feeling as supporters of the program right now has to do with how successful it has been. It sounds like a strange way to look at it, but people don't, they look long term. All those Rose Bowls. Yes, I won 3 Rose Bowls. That's freaking amazing. I'm amazing. It was all amazing. I get it. Do y'all know that after the second of the 2 Rose Bowls, the 2000 Rose Bowl when we beat Stanford, our Wisconsin's record in the next 3 years was 19-17, including a 5-7 season. So, people kind of gloss over, and don't get me wrong. I mean, I'd rather have people think I was undefeated as a coach, but the reality is, even as strong as that program was at that time, coming off arguably 2 of the 3 or 4 most successful seasons in program history, it went into an absolute tailspin. It had nothing to do with recruiting rankings. We had some of the best recruiting classes ever at those times. We had the shoebox scandal, which kind of set things off in a bad way in one of those years. But we had a 5-7 season. Can you imagine a 5-7 season now? It would be
oh god,
all hands on deck. The Titanic, fire Chris, incarcerate Chris. Maybe not just fire him, make sure he's incarcerated so he can not come back and coach again. And what happened after those 3 terrible seasons? I had a 10-3 season, decided I was going to retire, had Bert Bielema, I call him Bert, you guys come in, and Bert lost 1 game, 12-1. Yes, with my players, I understand that, but the program was in good shape then. It was in fantastic shape, and you have John Stocco, and you had good guys at good positions, continuity with the coaching staff in many ways, and you would have thought, there were some naysayers at that time, but to even imagine a 3-year period where we went 19-17 now. It's just different times, different expectations. We're sort of the victim of our own success. And, I understand 1-9 in the last 10 games against top 25 teams. That is unacceptable. Paul Chryst would be the first person to tell you it's unacceptable.
Yep.
And that doesn't give him a pass. But please understand that this coaching staff understands where they are right now. And they're not riding on, unicorns and rainbows thinking that they're okay because he won the Orange Bowl in 2017. No one has that mindset. So no one's panicking. And, like I say to people, especially the ones who say that the JV backup tight ends from 1995 in high school who are the experts of the program and say we should fire Paul Chryst right now. Paul Chryst is not going to be fired during the season. So that he can take that pipe dream. He can lose the rest of the games. It's not going to be a Scott Frost situation. They would evaluate at the end of the season. Mac would do what he's going to do or not do what he's going to do. But there's going to be nothing happening, as if Jim Leonard is going to quit Game 7 and go take over Nebraska or something. I don't know what this thought that we have to do something right now in the middle of the season or we're going to be lost forever. It's okay. We have a stable, strong program. We're backsliding a little bit in some of the areas we traditionally don't, like offensive line play. But this is not a broken program. This is a fixable situation. And that's I want to discuss and get y'all's views on this.
Yeah.
But I want to, I had that thread, when we can examine these and break these things down. But the bottom line is when I got to the end of the thread, it wasn't that we need to blow everything up. It's that we need to take a hard, difficult, unflinching look at where we are and say, a lot of this is okay, but a lot of it isn't. And that's where I am right now.
Okay. So I want to say 2 things about the Paul Chryst situation. Seeing all the program is in shambles comments and things like that. And, we need to tear it down and change the entire philosophy. And we need to bring in a a pro style offense or a West Coast offense or, any of those number of things. First is the Paul Chryst thing is he is a new offensive coordinator. We are 4 games into completely new roles in the offense. Last year, Paul Chryst was the head coach, the offensive coordinator, and the quarterback's coach. This year, Bobby Ingram is the offensive coordinator, and he's the play caller, and he's the quarterback's coach, and Paul Chryst is wearing just the head coach hat. I could see a little bit more of the fire Paul Chryst stuff if he's calling like stupid timeouts that result in 10-second runoffs that cost them a game or something like that.
Yeah.
But just for an adjustment period, we are 4 games in and had to go play the number 3 team in the country in their building.
Yeah, that's a fantastic point, and it begs for the kind of, it's not patience for patience sake. It's patience based on the situation. Yes, the Washington State loss was egregious. They played that game 10 times. Wisconsin wins it 9 times. That's just one of those you hit the bad number in Vegas or something. Sometimes it doesn't work out. There were mistakes made, but that was I feel very confident that was a fluke loss.
Washington State was 3.5 minutes away from blowing out Oregon last week.
They were playing really good against Oregon. I was watching that game,
and that was a good team. And I know statistics are like a-holes, but the reason here's the thing: using this very same kind of advanced analytics that people would have used to want to bury Graham Mertz or bury Paul Chryst as offensive coordinator last year. It is unquestionable, even after playing Ohio State, that a lot of those things have turned around. And Wisconsin is not one of those weird 3 yards in the cloud, although I love it personally. I'd run every play if I could and never punt, but 3 yards in the cloud of dust teams where every route is 5 yards, kind of like some of the stuff we saw early in the season last year against Notre Dame, Michigan, those sorts of things. This is not that team. It wasn't that team against Ohio State. There are all kinds of things that I would have done differently with the offensive game approach on certain things. Some of it was just how they either they worked or it didn't. But I promise you, Ingram, he deserves, as you alluded to a few minutes ago, he deserves a chance to show what he can do against a full.
We need a bigger sample size in this situation.
Yes, absolutely, and I think there have been wrinkles, and this team is more. Bobby Ingram, he wasn't the one throwing that ball behind DK. I mean, it's not, and I've been a Mertz defender, and he has improved. I believe this, and I get a lot of backlash for this. Graham Mertz is a significantly better quarterback right now than he was in 2021.
Oh,
in terms of poise.
I'm going to piss people off when we get to our recap of the Ohio State game when we're done having this conversation.
Okay,
and we do for all the football games, we do 3 stars and an underrated performer. I'll give a spoiler alert that Graham Mertz makes an appearance for me, and it's probably going to make people crabby because he didn't perform well in the box score. But I think on the eye test, he did better than people are giving him credit for. And the fact that people will say that last week, it was just New Mexico State, and that's the only reason he played well. He made throws in that game that I think doesn't matter the opponent, that he made throws that only his wide receivers were catching.
Yes, that's been a huge development, and he's a talented kid and a good kid and a hard worker. And I think you both have probably heard the stories about how, at least from spring going forward, he's taking the time to talk to people and watch more film. He's doing those things that you want a leader to do. You want someone who wants to take it to the next level will do. But there's so many fans, and these are the people that, frankly, I don't think either of us or any of the 3 of us care about, that have made their decision that this is the wrong guy in the wrong place. And he is not the wrong guy. Is he the guy that's going to, declare for the draft early and be a top 5 NFL draft pick? No, I don't. I think we probably know that's probably not going to happen. But there is a lot of room for growth, and this kid is talented, and he is a leader. And I feel it's not a question of like I go into Mertz defense mode, but I feel like a lot of these people, they don't know jack shit about quarterback play and what's good quarterback play. They saw the pick. The pick was terrible. No one in the world is going to defend that throw. No, but there was some miscommunication, but you know what? He didn't throw another one the rest of the. I know it was only 100 yards passing. I understand all that, but there were things that football minds and trained football eyes see in his game this year that have shown improvement.
Oh, 100%.
Jake and I had this conversation yesterday that I said that people see that he was a 4-star quarterback and they already attach expectations before he steps foot on the field. Because he's a 4-star quarterback. He's going to be the greatest guy we've ever had since Russell Wilson. And there's nothing in my mind that will change the fact that I now expect him to do what Russell Wilson did and lead the Badgers to being a top 10 team in the entire country and winning, primetime bowl games on New Year's Day and being in a position to get into the college football playoff. And Jake said a thing that I think really translates well, and I think is something that can kind of offer perspective, is he compared it to another player, and I'll let Jake say what he said when him and I talked about this, because I think it translates well.
Well, first of all, I'm going to say this. When they saw a 4-star quarterback, and I'm sure, we've all said it, right? We're all like, the Badgers are a quarterback away. The Badgers are a quarterback away. The Badgers are a quarterback away from being a top 5 team and competing for the national title. And you see a 4-star quarterback come in, and it's like, okay, people were calling for him to be the Heisman, the day that he signed at Wisconsin. And it's ridiculous to me, to put those expectations on a young kid like that. It's very rare that young kids live up to those expectations. I wanted to say something because you were talking before about Paul Chryst, and I got to give him a little criticism. The only problem I have with Chryst, and I appreciate his patience because you could see it in his teams. They never, they're patient and they understand that it's a long grind. He's very good at getting that message across. But for these big games, I need to see some fire. And you never see that in his interviews. You never see Paul Chryst, bring energy and get his guys going. And Jim Leonard is the same way. He's a very, very, even keel guy. He's to himself. He's like, okay, trust the process. But it's like with these Ohio State games, and there were, before the season, no, Michigan State was ranked number 11. They've fallen flat on their face too.
Yeah.
So was Notre Dame.
But for those games, I mean, Notre Dame does that every year. Before those games, I need to see some fire. I need to see some energy, some heart. You know what I'm saying? Like I get jacked up in my house, so why is he not getting jacked up? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's a fair point. Let me kind of approach this two different ways. First of all, and this I wish I could. Yeah, the Chris that you see on the sidelines on TV, I can assure you there is a different side of that in the locker room. I'm not saying he's fire and brimstone, knocking stuff out, doing Bobby Knight stuff, but there is more fun. So it's not totally what you see, but I understand that's the public perception. But I do agree with you, and it goes a little bit beyond the general attitude. It's when I saw them coming out for that, it took me about 3 minutes to say they're not ready. I felt they weren't quite ready for that Ohio State game, and it's not a question of not having quality kids who don't know what it means to win. They do. I mean, this is a great group of guys. They're competitors. They hate losing. I mean, look at Nick Herbig. It kills the football games. It kills him. I mean, so these are not soft guys. These are a very, very prideful group of young men. But I will say, how exactly it came to have them look like that, and whatever the perception is to look not ready, it ends at Chris' doorstep. So whatever he says or doesn't say, or whatever fire he has or doesn't show, it doesn't really matter what the component parts are. The reality is, were they there punching in the beginning? And I don't think they were. So those are. I just feel like, and I don't know what that. It's intimidating. It's an intimidating place to play. They have a blackout. They're playing arguably the best team in the country right now with unquestionably the best offense in the country. Yeah. And, I can see coming in a little bit wide-eyed, but it's not because the kids don't have the fight. So, I guess kind of in a roundabout way, I'm agreeing with what you're saying. That was notable to me. We would have, and I know there's the stoic walk out there arm in arm and just go kick some ass, but there is something too showing a little bit of swagger early on. I think it's a different day and age. This isn't 1999. This is 2022, and I would have liked to see a little more. And it wasn't that it's a perfect correlation. Oh, but suddenly they're down 28-0. You're like, oh yeah, they didn't look like they're ready. I mean, that's kind of fairly or unfairly, that's sort of the jump that people made.
Yeah. So we're gonna get to the player that I compared him to, and the reason I did this is because people want him to fail, and they're fans of the team, and it makes absolutely no sense to me. But it's a Packers quarterback, and it's not Aaron Rodgers. Packers fans want Jordan Love to fail.
I can't wrap my head around it. I can't. I don't get it.
I remember our conversation now.
Yeah.
They were comparing Favre. They were comparing Rodgers to Favre, right? We heard it from all the fans. You guys are going to be screwed after Favre leaves. We're not talking about him off the field right now because he's a complete asshole. And yes, I think that. And yes, I'm still a Packers fan. I just wanted to get that out there.
You can always send him baked goods to the federal prison. I'm sure they'll you can do the green and gold cookies or whatever. He can have them during the
just
social
say
life.
From Jen.
Yeah, I mean, I'll send one from Warren Sapp. I think you think that's funny.
Oh, you probably would. So then, now we get Jordan Love, and he's a first-round pick. And, you talked about the Badgers going through a rough stretch after all those Rose Bowls. People forget that the last couple of years of McCarthy, because we were so good for so long under McCarthy because of Rodgers, spoiler alert. We had those couple of years where we were just kind of like, and it was just like kind of Rodgers just running around making shit happen. And then since LaFleur, obviously we've been phenomenal, except in the playoffs when it matters. But Rodgers has been so good, and he doesn't throw interceptions. And, people are going to compare Jordan Love to Aaron Rodgers. And it's just like, there's not going to be another Aaron fucking Rodgers. Okay. It's going to be impossible for somebody to have less than 100 interceptions in 15 years as a starter. That's fucking crazy. So then Graham Mertz comes in, and like Tyler said, right away, Tyler did it. He compared him to Russell Wilson because that's what the fans were saying. Russell Wilson was a fucking Heisman candidate when he was a Badger.
Yeah.
I actually got into an argument with a guy a couple months ago that if Russell Wilson didn't come to Wisconsin, he wouldn't have been a third-round pick. And he was like, no, he was made at NC State. I'm like, buddy, we won a lot of goddamn games that year. We went to the Rose Bowl. I mean, Russell Wilson had a crazy touchdown interception ratio. Like, he showed his accuracy. He showed his mobility. He showed everything. And he was on the national stage.
Yeah, 33 touchdowns, 4 receptions, and 6 more rushing touchdowns that year. That wasn't happening. That wasn't happening at NC State. And if it did happen at NC State, they wouldn't have had the same credibility because defenses in the ACC weren't nearly as tough. So
exactly. So him coming to Wisconsin made him a third-round pick. But people are going to compare Graham Mertz to this transfer quarterback who was seasoned, and maybe he took his lumps at NC State, but when he got matched up with an offensive coordinator back then, Paul Chryst, I mean, it was a match made in heaven. Now, the thing that I don't understand, and I'm kind of interested in your answer, is you have Russell Wilson, who was really good with offensive coordinator, like I just mentioned, Paul Chryst. And then when Paul Chryst went to Pittsburgh, they were actually throwing the ball around quite a bit. So what happened when he came back to Wisconsin where we kind of struggled to throw the ball? Like, what happened?
Yeah, that's a good question. Let me dip back on something real quick because you mentioned Graham Mertz, and I know fans just don't ever love talking about that topic at all. But remember, he came in, he had that All-American Bowl game where he was the MVP in high school. Yep. And then, I think to his detriment, had that game against Illinois, his first game ever. The
17 straight completion game.
Right. That was like doing about 10 lines of cocaine for expectations. And it was, by the way, just say no to drugs, kids. Just say no to drugs. But,
that's going to end up being my favorite part of this show.
Oh, don't worry. We'll get more. But
that's awesome.
I think something that was already, the expectations were already going to be, and fairly so, in hyperdrive because this ranked quarterback, came in with this pedigree, but it almost was unfair to him. And then he got the concussion, and things just kind of went out the rails. And 2020 was such a fucked up year for so many reasons, for so many players. And I don't know. I'm not a head shrinker. I don't know exactly what got, but I think there were some injuries, and he's a tough kid. He doesn't want to complain about it. He doesn't want to whine about stuff. But I do feel a little bit badly for the guy because I just think the expectations were too high. But, his story, Mertz's story has yet to be written. And that's the exciting part of it for me. So we'll see where it goes. But ask me the question again. I'm sorry. I'm 75. I have the mind of a 25-year-old, but I forgot something. I had some sherry wine.
So a lot. I see this a lot, and I don't know how to respond to it myself. But Paul Chryst was throwing the ball around with Russell Wilson, and then he was throwing the ball around at Pittsburgh, and then he came back to Wisconsin. I just don't know where the passing game went in that time. You know what I mean?
He would. Chris would, I think, generically say, and probably in a really exciting and enthralling way, he would say something to the effect of, "We tailor offense to the personnel." I certainly know last year that was an example. That the way they called those games was because that's what they thought they had. I know we had Danny Davis and Kendrick Pryor, but I'm telling you that passing game was not okay last year. I mean, there was just all kinds of problems with the way it was clicking in practice and whatnot. So, this year, I think it should be more, and it's opening up a little more. And I think Chris is trying to step back a little bit and let Ingram do his thing. And as you said, that takes time. Mm-hmm. But it's probably partially personnel and partially, and I said this in my thread, maybe the Wisconsin way has been figured out a little bit. I mean, it's I hate to say that, because if you have the personnel and you typically you tailor the scheme to the personnel, whether it's adding bells and whistles or jet sweeps or whatever the case may be. But I just wonder, I think this is going to how our offense is changing and evolving, even if it's slowly, is going to have to keep doing that if we're going to try and get ahead of this. And, so I think maybe Chris waited a little bit too long to try and move that offense forward, and we're just now catching up with it. I think that's the kind of the most generic way I can answer that.
So I said 2 weeks ago, I feel that the Badgers' style of play makes them a little bit easier to upset, because there's usually fewer possessions in the games, because they just run the ball and run the ball and run the ball and run the ball. And then after that, they run the ball and run the ball, and then they run the ball more. It takes away possessions.
That's exactly right.
And it's what I said with it is, the games you see the Badgers score a lot of points, it's usually only because they have a lot of big plays that result in shorter possessions, because somebody ran for a 75-yard touchdown or a 50-yard touchdown or a 96-yard touchdown or a 100-yard touchdown pick six. Yep. That's those games where you see the higher scoring, not the 17-14 games they lost to Washington State because they didn't have a lot of possessions in that game. That's exactly right. And I think it does make it easier for them to upset other teams. But when a team gets off to such a hot start as Ohio State did, I think the win pretty much out of the sails right away. It
puts a lot more pressure on your drive.
Right. So that's kind of changed that. But I think the play style, I think maybe through the middle of last year is where I would have liked to see them where they are now. Right. But I do think there is progress being made here, and I think Graham Mertz is a big part of that progress.
Unquestionably, and it's just you nail it on the head. I mean, so we're in 1993 in my first Rose Bowl season, and we're playing Michigan, a game we ultimately won 13-10. But if Michigan would have jumped out with 2 quick touchdowns in that game, we probably don't win. Because it was the way, even with explosive players on that particular offense, a really good offensive line, a good game manager in Bevel, that was just the Wisconsin way, the way it had to be. And UCLA, we didn't get in the shootout. We ultimately kept it low scoring, held them to 16 points and won the game. And I think you hit the nail on the head. Ohio State is the worst case scenario. I know the worst case scenario for a lot of teams, but a game where you get down, this team just, at least at this point, is quite obviously not cut out for big comebacks. And let's not forget, I mean, Leonard is a defensive whiz, and he has turned solid players into NFL guys. And he's, I do think head coaching is in his future, whether it's at Wisconsin or somewhere else. Mm-hmm. But part of the success of his defense is to keep away the offense does with time of possession. Mm-hmm. So you're going to have a generally better scoring defense, obviously, and you both know this, if your offense is holding the ball 37 minutes a game.
Yep. And
so when that's out of whack, and you got a guy like C.J. Stroud who comes in and can score in 15 seconds, it's just, I keep going back to the Ohio State game, but this program is not equipped to beat teams like Ohio State. We could have played that game 100 times, we lose 100 times. So it doesn't mean we can't run the table and play them again, but and this is one of the things I said in that thread you talked about, we're just not at a place right now. Maybe in a cold game in Madison, and we could sneak one out, but playing them on a turf field somewhere is just it's going to be really tricky with the current personnel on this team. And I don't want to keep ranting here, but we talked about recruiting a little bit.
Yep.
Wisconsin, this is just a mind-blowing statistic. 6 out of 10, 60% of the 10 highest-rated rivals or recruits in the Rivals era are on this Wisconsin roster right now. 60% of them. So people talk about recruiting is down. The problem is when you're playing teams like Ohio State, they're setting their own records. And I think we had something like they have two more 5-stars in 2 of their recent recruiting classes than Wisconsin has had in program history. So despite our recruiting generally trending up, although we can talk about 22 and 23 not being great, the gap is still widening, and that's part of the problem too. And it's almost like it's an unfair competition. I don't want to sell the Wisconsin Badgers short because they're a good team, a talented team with a lot of competitive kids. But Ohio State is like an NFL team. I said in one of my tweets during the game, this is like watching a combine. I mean, that's just, and they were down guys.
I'll tell you what, man, that completely changed my mindset. Especially with the NIL now, where you can pay guys.
Yeah.
Some of these programs are going to be run kind of like semi-pro teams, and we're having another one join us, in a few years in USC, because USC is always a popular spot. We're probably going to get shellacked by them for a few years, just because people are going to want to go play at Southern Cal, in California, get paid, look cool. Lincoln Riley's the hot new coach still. So, I mean,
we'll see. I don't think it's inevitable. I think, there is some, especially for the super high-end recruits that are expecting to leave after 3 years. That's a hugely appealing thing. And I understand the allure of Los Angeles and their NIL money. But, hey, and I know they're better now, but like watching UCLA stadiums, it's just, the college experience isn't there, and going and playing in a 10% full Rose Bowl or even with a great team, a 60% full stadium on USC's campus, there's just something that there's certain kids, the kind of kids we recruit, I think in some ways that's going to matter to them. That seems like a weird generic answer, but let's be honest, we're not going after the 5-star wide receivers. The Caleb Williams thing, and I know pretty much everything, but to give you some insight. That wasn't just nothing. He was seriously considering the Badgers. That was legitimate. And, there's never been a full accounting for why he ended up choosing USC. But I think you don't have to be in the Mensa Society to realize that the opportunities that he had there from an NIL perspective certainly were a huge factor in that. And
following his coach.
Yeah, and he's his own coach, and he's been successful in the system. That maybe who knows what. Yes, I know Ingram is a family friend and all that, and he would have. And don't get me wrong, Caleb Williams would have been highly successful in Madison too.
I threw that out in January before it was like March, and they're like, Caleb Williams is actually considering Wisconsin, and I'm like, fuck yeah! Like, let me be proven right from 2 months ago that I predicted this, and it got so close, it just didn't happen.
The
USC thing is by USC and UCLA coming into the Big Ten and playing the Badgers. Potentially once or twice a year, is it puts some West Coast exposure on Wisconsin. So, those teams both probably won't be in Camp Randall in the same year. It'll probably be one in Camp Randall, and then the Badgers will go to the other one. But that's at least once a year that USC people have the opportunity to see a game in Camp Randall and see what jump around looks like. See Camp Randall just absolutely packed, even though it's 0 degrees outside. And I think that there's some exposure there that UCLA and USC coming to the Big Ten does actually potentially benefit the Badgers in the future as far as recruiting.
I hope we play them in November.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a really good point as far as exposure. And it's just it all kind of the recruiting thing. I think we just have to I touched on this again in that thread, but the NIL stuff, and there's no question Wisconsin's recruiting department was down for a couple of years. We did not have the staff or resources, and we're now just starting to dig out of that. And it's we're the 50th ranked class right now for 23. That's not acceptable. That's not. I mean, that's even in the compared to our normal quote unquote normal Wisconsin recruiting classes from 2002 to when we started going up a little bit in late 2017, 2018, 2019, that's low for us. And we still make it rebound with a couple dudes, but we can't get a quarterback to come here. I mean, this is just, I think anything that can get us exposed to these kids on the West Coast more than we already are, I think is going to be helpful. But, ultimately, I always say this, proof's in the pudding. So if Wisconsin is a successful program and a good quarterback thinks there's a system where he can come in and be successful, whether he has NFL aspirations or not, it'll take care of itself. It's never going to be. We're never going to out-glamour those kind of programs. We're not in Alabama. We're never going to be in Alabama. It's just the way it is. We're never going to be Ohio State. That's just the way it is. And people would be pissed at me for saying that.
Yeah.
But these are the people who have this clouded memory of some era of Wisconsin football where we were this elite destination place for all these. Even under me, who's fucking amazing, it was never like that. It never, ever, ever was like that. We were a highly successful school who got educations, put a bunch of kids in the pros. We've never been ever Ohio State where they are now. It's never even been close. So, I don't want to be negative, but that doesn't mean we can't win. It doesn't. But things are just gonna, let's just see how it goes this year, and we'll reevaluate.
I think another thing that could potentially make a difference is the looser transfer portal rules. So the Badgers didn't have a huge impact on as far as the transfer portal is concerned, but they did bring in 3 experienced cornerbacks from the transfer portal. So it's, the door is opening there. So I think, as far as, you're talking about recruiting too, and we talked about like what the West Coast opening up could do. Like,
right.
I feel that the door is opening for Wisconsin and the football program specifically, not closing.
Well, and the expanded playoffs. Got to remember that. That's extra exposure right there.
Yeah.
If they can just have a year where they lose, we're going 10-2. We're in the Big Ten championship game, and say Ohio State's not there for some odd reason, and Michigan won last year, and Michigan's still pretty good this year. Let's not count that out now. I'm just saying. Yeah.
You only have to get into the top 12, not the top 4.
Exactly.
Right.
So, that's something to think about, too, with quarterback recruits.
Well, we would have had, with that top 12, we would have had 2 or 3 college football playoff teams in the last 10 years. So, if that would have been the expanded field. So people forget. But, getting ahead of ourselves, this is an interesting rest of the year. And I say let's see what can happen, how this team develops. There's a huge wide range of outcomes that could happen. And look, one of those outcomes, as much as I hate Russian mobster-looking PJ Fleck, I'm not sure what happened to his face, but he looks like a Russian mobster now. I don't tell you. But is it bad to say that? I don't know. I don't think it is.
Can I steal that?
He looks like a Russian
argue
mobster.
with a lot of Minnesota fans, man. So
they know it too. You know what? Maybe it isn't even him. And the reason I think it might not be him is that they're really good.
Yeah, for real, dude. That defense they're really good on defense.
Yeah, look, and someone I saw somewhere in someone's thread pointing out this is that they returned a ton of experienced players.
Yeah.
And there's a high correlation of Big Ten West success with experienced players. And Wisconsin has benefited from that. And with Minnesota, I hate to say this for whatever imposter coach might be coaching them, they're a freaking good team this year. I'm not saying they're going to, go and win the Big Ten West and blow Ohio State out in Indy. I'm just saying this is probably the best Minnesota team that I can remember. So hopefully I say that. I curse them when they lose 6 games. It doesn't mean we can't beat them, but I just think we're dealing with some old dudes. As I said, like Tanner Morgan. Yeah. I think it's exciting that in 10 years his grandkids can look back on the season and watch some of the highlights.
I was going to say, isn't he like 40 years old at this point?
Yeah, actually.
He's only like a 17th year senior. Come on, guys.
People didn't know this. Jordan Bohannon was his godfather at his confirmation. So that tells you how old he is. But look, I'll call it what it is. And yes, I understand, PJ Fleck is still 1 game under 500 as he enters his 6th season in the Big Ten play. That's not great. I wouldn't have cut it with me. But he has put them in a position this season to be the best Minnesota team they've had. We're gonna have our hands full when we play them in November. But my God, please don't have them. Please don't have Minnesota win the Big Ten West. I feel like I know Jostens, who's the ring company, the ring and the banner companies are going to be excited for all that. But it's because Fleck likes to do that stuff. But it will be the like winning. It would be like Alabama winning 10 national titles. Would be the Minnesota equivalent of them winning the Big Ten West and playing in Indy. So, my God, please no.
I remember, what was it, Kirk Herbstreit that picked Nebraska in the Big Ten West?
Yeah, bro.
Some of that spray tan got to his brain. But, yeah, that was – I think actually Corso whispered it in his ear. But makes more sense than Corso said.
He gets a pass because he's 109, so –
Corso is he actually is only 4 years older than Bohannon. So say what you. I mean, Bohannon has aged really well. People would say Brad Davison, Jordan. They're the same guy. Brad Davison is like a normal aged college senior last year. The guy was like, he barely had his driver's license. It's amazing. They're trying to compare him to Jordan Bohannon, who was around the '60s doing Cuban Missile Crisis drills. But it's fine. We could talk basketball some other time. I love talking basketball, so we can.
Oh, dude,
another
we're
day.
Getting there.
Yeah, we're getting there.
We can have you on. We have a buddy named Mike Yoder, and he's just, I mean, even more than like the pro sports in the state, in Wisconsin, which is very rare. But he's all Wisconsin, all Badgers, all day, 7 days a week, 365. And we call him our Badger expert. Love to have you on with him, man, because you guys would just go.
We do primers before all of the season starts, and we kind of go through the roster and make record predictions and pick some guys that we think are going to be like the team MVPs and things like that. So that'll probably be sometime in the middle towards the end of October, probably about a week or so before the season starts. So. I mean, if you're up for coming back, we'd love to have you back for that. That would be fun.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to buy another Spanish wine island about that time, but I can jet in. It's no big deal. I own 3. So, and how do you spell this dude's name?
Mike Yoder. It's
Yoder.
Jodar.
Okay, not Yoder like Yoder, the ex-Badger coach. Okay. I mean, I figured it wasn't him. I know Steve is of advanced years. But Mikhail can't be young and handsome like me. But it's that's great. I love to talk basketball. I won't get into it now. But I think Garrett has this team in the right. He does alternate between winning Big Ten titles and having a season where everyone wants to fire him, then winning a Big Ten title. But I think hopefully he'll get that firing thing out of it.
Yeah, and that's the thing is there's all these fire everybody all the time, but you got to have somebody that is going to be a good replacement. Bringing somebody in the middle of a season just puts that person in an even tougher position.
Well,
whether it be Jim Leonard or somebody else,
right? And I think, and we talked about this earlier, but another thing people don't quite appreciate because tweeting is free is that firing coaches cost money and a lot of money. Talk to Nebraska if you want to learn about talk to Trev Alberts. I mean, this is it's extremely expensive, and even if there was a reason, and Chris went 0-12 this season, and it's not cheap. And then the question is, who are you going to get? Are you going to get Jim Leonard? Jim Leonard's never coached a team. Jim Leonard's first coaching job was as secondary coach for Paul Chris for 2 years, right? And then he took over DC after Aranda left. But I'm not saying that that Leonard can't be a great college coach, and he very well may be. He's got a great mind. I love his schemes. But there's nothing sure about that. Between the two of them, Paul Chris is a sure thing. If we're looking at who's a sure thing, maybe the upside isn't quite as high. But it astounds me that people, these Twitter warriors who are these Twitter ADs, I call them, who have all the money in the world, and then kind of like when they wanted to fire Guard, there's going to be this long list of incredible coaches that just can't wait to come to Wisconsin and try and recruit in a place where there isn't a 3-star recruit in the class. For the entire state. I mean, a 4-star recruit. I mean, it's mind-boggling to me, but that's why Twitter's free. So
yeah.
All right, well, do you guys
I gotta say one thing. Oh, I gotta say 2 things. This is why I hate being generalized, not just with Badgers, but with Packers and Bucks, because fucking other fans just ruin it for me, and I can't have an intelligent conversation with a rival fan because they're like, "Oh, you're a Bucks fan? Oh, you must love Giannis." And if you didn't have Giannis, it's just like, yeah, obviously Giannis is the best, but I don't want to talk about that right now. It's annoying as hell. So I wanted to ask you a question real quick because you're a smart guy.
Take your time. Hey, thanks. I love compliments. Some people have suggested my ego isn't big enough yet, and I need to work on it. So I'm happy to do that beta testing here.
Well, I have a girlfriend, so I'm very good at giving compliments, even if I don't mean them. I hope she's not watching right now.
This guy's a smart guy. Oh, don't worry, she's not watching.
Oh, that's awesome.
No, I hear my daughter walking around, so I don't think she is. But so the Badgers schedule the rest of the season, even with Michigan State on there, and they've, like I said, fallen flat on their face. A lot of winnable games. Do you think it is possible? And you can give me like a percentage if you want to. Do you think it's possible that we go against Minnesota at 9-2?
Yeah, I think it's not likely, but it's possible. And there isn't a game the rest of the season that I can see, at least at this point, that I wouldn't consider them, at least a coin flip. But that's having that happen and going in and winning them. There's also by the flip side, there isn't a game in the rest of the season schedule that they could not potentially lose. So that's what's not suggesting they're going to lose 8 games. I'm just saying there are no gimmies in that entire bag.
True.
But I wouldn't be stunned to be playing Minnesota for the Axe. Not for the Axe, of course it's going to be for the Axe, but for the spot in the Big Ten Championship. I wouldn't be stunned. Yay, Ohio State!
Yeah, right. So, are you going to be at the game on this Saturday?
Oh, I'm at every game. I every game that I can be at. You might have seen I was at down in Dallas this week when Jake got his first catches as an NFL superstar for the Cowboys, and I think I threw a couple of the Peyton Hender shot that bum from Indiana when Jake's doing the hard work and blocking people, and this Indiana goofball keeps getting the throws. But anyway, Jake did have a couple catches. So, but yeah, I'll be there, and it's now Barry Alvarez Field, which I kind of say it always has been since 1990. But it's great, and just damn it, get those kids in there. The one thing they changed, I just can't stand it. Open up the student section and let those kids knock each other over, their drunk asses over to get to whatever seats they want.
Real, bro.
Open up these stupid orderly lines where you get humiliated on national TV because you don't have kids sitting there till 4 minutes left in the first quarter. End that shit now. It's done.
100%.
By decree of the dawn. I am starting with I feel bad because you guys have to move on, but we could have talked about Brett Bielema and the all the buffet stress there's going to be this weekend in Madison. But it's just it's let the kids be kids, instead of this orderly.
Yes.
If you want to pay the big bucks for the 40-yard line seats and sit in your hands all game, that's one thing. But you get these kids in there because it's embarrassing.
You do not sit during the game. I hate that too. We could have a whole conversation about that at Packers games. I got yelled at Bucks games. It's like, dude, I paid a lot of fucking money for this shit. I work hard for my money. Yeah. I want to stand up and be loud as hell.
That's right. That'd be great. And I say I call plays during the game still. The plays that work are the ones that I call. So the Braylon Allen 80-yard touchdown that gave us 21 points. I did call it again. Yeah, I said no, we're not taking him out because Stroud was in the previous series. I'm like, we're gonna do this, and it worked, but that's fine. I don't want to step on I don't want to step on Ingram's toes. If they need me, I'm
here. Yeah.
All right. Well, we appreciate you jumping on with us. We'd love to have you back. It's fun to talk to you. Appreciate your time and taking the time to join us and have some discussion about some of these things that people just blindly complain about because they're just looking for something to complain about. So we appreciate it.
It's fun to be here. And like I said, to all the real Badger fans, keep the faith. I mean, your sense of foreboding right now is not totally insane, and there are definitely things to fix program-wise and otherwise, but we have a pretty good track record at this school, and we didn't just fall off the rails. It's going to be okay. We're going to figure this out. And hey, just let you know, I sent a bottle of my finest sherry wine to both of you. You'll be getting that probably next few days.
Hey, thanks, buddy. Appreciate it.
You got it. Could be your secret stash. You said you have a daughter, so clearly you probably need to drink some wine periodically.
Well, I need a lot of shit.
I got 2 daughters.
I'm just kidding. My daughters are wonderful. I must say, and sons and everything. I got all that. All right, very good. Well, I'm going to go research. I'm going to go Wikipedia Joe Ferguson and figure out who he is. But thanks for having me on. Appreciate
it.
Thank you.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
That guy was awesome. That was funny. I didn't expect him to have I did not expect him to have that much swagger. I really didn't. That was
He said
awesome.
PJ Fleck looks like a Russian mobster. That shit was funny.
Oh.
All right. So we have the Ohio State game. Like, I don't think we need to get super in depth with it. Like, people know what happened. I do want to do the 3 stars in our underrated performer because I want to stir the pot a little more. So that said, I will let you go ahead and give your 3 stars, and then we'll do our underrated performer. But let's do that, and then we can talk about Illinois.
Okay. So 3 stars. First one's going to be Braylon Allen, obviously. Yep. 23 carries, 165 yards, and a touchdown. He broke the 75-yarder. I'm still waiting for him to have like a game, where it's like, oh, damn, Braylon Allen had a fucking game. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
Just where it feels like his game. My second one is going to be Torchio. Going to give you a little credit. You called that.
Yeah, I did.
And he's a good safety. He flies around, makes tackles. He's not afraid to stick his nose in there, and he's a pretty good ball hawk. Obviously, he has a 100-yard pick six, so that's pretty damn good.
That did happen.
Next one, I had trouble, man. I
did
kind of
too,
looking.
but I picked the guy I picked for a reason.
The guy that I picked is Graham Mertz.
Me too.
And the reason I picked him is because when I was watching that game, okay, I'm going to be very careful how I word this. Tyler used a great word last week, adversity. And adversity is such a great word. You can use it in your daily life. You can use it in sports. He didn't shy away from adversity. He still went out there and he still played the game as if it was a 0-0 game. And that is exactly what you want. He went out there as a leader. We're licking our wounds. It is what it is, and you obviously just heard Mr. Alvarez talk about it. It's still one loss. It's one.
That's true.
It counts as one loss. Yeah, we got dragged. And I put it out there and I said, is this what it feels like to be a Bears fan when they play the Packers? Because now I understand. I understand. Ohio State is good every year. They always have good quarterback play in terms of college. Obviously, we know they are not very good in the pros.
That's
Justin
true.
Fields. Looking at you.
Dude, I said this. I said it Friday. I stand by it. Sunday was a perfect example. He is going to be the next Terrell Pryor, who is a quarterback that converts to wide receiver.
Bro, how the hell do you have the least amount of attempts and you're still the highest of off-target passes? That is a recipe for you fucking suck. I'm sorry. I can't beat around the bush anymore. You throw the least amount of times and you have the highest percent of passes uncatchable. You fucking suck. And Bears fans are like, well, at least he's admitting he sucks. What the fuck does that do? What does that do?
Okay, congrats.
We all know you suck, Justin. Congratulations on self-awareness. Jesus Christ. Bears fans, man, they cling to anything. I swear to God, they cling to any little positive note. Anyways, so I put Graham Mertz out there because, I think he showed a lot of mental toughness by going out there and continuing to play.
That's a good point. So I went with Graham Mertz as well for my third one. I did also go with Braylon Allen and John Torchio for my other two. I went with Graham Mertz because he did score 2 touchdowns. So out of the 21 points, he was responsible for 14 of them. Mm-hmm. I said this to you that I think he passes the eye test more than he passes the box score test.
Yes.
Scary Alvarez in his long threaded tweets, which you definitely should check out if you haven't seen it on Twitter, is, he struggles with ranked opponents. It's just a fact. But a few things during this game that he did that, like Jake said, the mental toughness is really something that's worth bringing up. But he also made a really good third down throw to Skylar Bell. He got hit as he threw to Skylar Bell, and they converted on a third down for a first down. Mm-hmm. That, and then the pass that he made to Skylar Bell right before halftime, that was a dime of a throw. It went right through Skylar Bell's hands, and that's that on its own. He catches that. That's like a 40-yard touchdown, 35-yard touchdown. Mm-hmm. And we're talking about 2 touchdowns and a rushing touchdown. We're talking about Graham Mertz having 3 touchdowns in this game. And then flip that also to the miscommunication with DK. It's an unfortunate thing. So I would put a little bit of blame on both of them. Just to the point of not having the communication to know who's going which direction, whether he's going to be breaking out towards the sideline or in towards the middle of the field. Graham Mertz thought he was breaking in. If Kimray DK breaks in, say that pass gets completed. Say that pass gets incompleted and he doesn't throw the interception. That play alone, by flipping just that play, the Badgers would have won the turnover battle.
Yeah, that was key on the road.
The Badgers were still even in the turnover battle despite that.
Remember, I said this yesterday. I actually give a little bit of credit to Mertz with this, because people, and this is people that know football. You're taught as a quarterback to feel pressure and to throw on time. Like a lot of these routes are timing routes.
Right.
And like you said, to your point of giving, blaming it on DK as well. Maybe he thought DK was going to sit. He's
Right.
timing it in his head. Okay, boom, he's going to be right here at this time. Boom, I'm going to throw it.
Yep.
That's something where they're going to have to work on, and I'm okay with dealing with those growing pains right now.
Right.
I mean, it sucks that it happened on national TV, but it's better that it happened there. Sometimes people that get your ass whooped, you wake up from that. And and I feel like we're gonna go against Minnesota at 9-2. I truthfully do. Like, I don't think this team this year is gonna have a slip up against Northwestern. Like, now that they've had 2 losses and they already had their slip up.
Had their slip up and they had their a little bit
their
outmatched game. They had their outmatched game and they had their slip up. So I think from here on out they'll be the typical Wisconsin that just consistently handles business.
Yeah, they'll beat Illinois on Saturday, and then people so on and so forth. Iowa's horrible this year. Iowa's going to get clapped by Michigan this week. And then we play Nebraska, who's obviously bad this year. Northwestern, Michigan State is the only game where, and I know that's the game that he was alluding to when he said a coin flip. Because Michigan State's still a pretty good team. They were ranked 11th coming into the season, for God's sakes. So that's still a tough game, and it's at Michigan State, which really makes me coin flip. If it was at Madison, I'd feel pretty confident. But if they can get through that game, I could see us 9-2 easily. And who knows? I haven't looked at Minnesota's schedule that closely, but if they're undefeated, that could be a big boy game.
True. What's up, Tyler? If you didn't watch like the last chunk of the show, we had Scary Alvarez. I don't know if you're really active on Twitter or not, Tyler, but he was fun to have on. Before I give my underrated performer, I do want to give credit to Ohio State. I think arguably the biggest credit out of anybody who played well in this game, I think the Ohio State offensive line gets lost in the transition of this. Ohio State's offensive line played very well. So I do want to give credit to that. Nick Herbig couldn't get in the backfield. Keanu Benton couldn't really get in the backfield. They picked up all the stunts. It seemed like Ohio State's offensive line really controlled the trenches. So I do want to give credit where it's due, just because that's what we do on the show. We give credit. We don't just say, everything that we did sucked and that was it. It's credit where it's due is what I'm doing. But that being said, my underrated performer, I went with Isaac Garendo. He had a reception for 19 yards, and he had 3 receptions actually, or 3 returns, I should say. 3 kick returns for 82 yards. So, some pretty decent work in the return game. I mean, obviously, in a game like this where there's not a ton of really exciting things to bring up, I do think Isaac Garendo did pretty well.
Yeah, I went with Skylar Bell. He had the 4 receptions for 55 yards. I went a little bit based off potential, because if he would have caught that long one, which in my eyes, that was a phenomenal play by the safety. And I told this to lots of people. That is what a 5-star safety looks like.
Yeah.
Okay. A guy that can, go right down the middle of the field, take away that middle third, flip his hips. That was an elite hip flip. Locate the freaking football and then knock it out on the sideline. And that was a good throw.
Yes, it was.
It wasn't perfect, but that was a damn good throw. And for that safety to be able to make a play on that, it is what it is. But I still think Skylar Bell, Mikey might have been right. Skylar Bell might be the guy. He might be the guy. We're going to find – I'm getting jumbled up here because I have so many thoughts that I just want to get out at one time. But I'm excited to go to the Illinois game after they got the ass whooping, because I get to see in person how they respond. This is where you find the men from the boys.
So let's talk about it. Let's talk about Illinois. Let's talk about the Badgers' offense against Illinois' defense.
Illinois' defense is fucking fool's gold, and I don't give a shit when anybody tells me.
Yeah, I agree.
Wyoming, Virginia, and Chattanooga is the reason that it looks good on paper.
Even Indiana. Like, Indiana is they're not beating the door down on football, college football greatness.
And they lost that quarterback that was good for them last year. So, losing to Indiana, I mean, that kind of tells me everything. The Badgers still average 34.8 points per game, 433 yards, 221 pass yards, 211 rush yards, and they still convert 46% of their third downs, which is good for 35th in the country. Illinois defense looks phenomenal on paper. I will not lie to you. This is where stats are a little misleading, in my opinion. Stats only tell part of the story, right?
It's harder in college football where there's 125 teams than it is in the NFL where there's 32.
Yeah, and I think it's easier access to watch the NFL. Where college, like, fucking, where the hell was I supposed to watch Illinois versus Chattanooga? And no, I do not want to watch it. I'm just saying as to make a point.
Yeah.
So they're giving up 8 points per game. I mean, over, like I said, Wyoming, Virginia, and Chattanooga, they gave up 9 points. Versus the one opponent, they gave up 20 points. So they gave up 20 points to Indiana, 9 points the other 3 games. They're giving up 8 points on average. 234 yards, 147 pass, 87 rush, and only 25% of third downs. That's 9th best in the country right now.
Yeah.
That will change after Saturday.
Yes.
That's all I'm going to say.
The Badgers convert 47% of their third downs.
Yep.
23rd in the country. Illinois' defense is 9th in conversions allowed.
Yep.
So, Illinois doesn't have a great pass rush. They're 73rd in the country in sacks, but they do have the lowest completion percentage allowed. Again, the teams you play against will change that. So they allow a 42.6 completion percentage. Graham Mertz is at 63. So I think that's going to skew in the Badgers' favor. The Badgers, this is interesting. This is something I really wasn't expecting. The Badgers are actually 16th in yards per pass.
Yeah.
At 9.3. So Graham Mertz is actually doing pretty good job of passing the ball downfield. And it would be even better given the 2 that Marcus Allen dropped. He had one in each of the first 2 games. He had some drops on some balls that I thought were catchable. And you throw in that Skylar Bell one. And not only that, there was a play earlier in that Ohio State game where Graham Mertz just had too much pressure in his face and he had to unload a deep ball. I think it was Keontez Lewis who had a step on 2 Ohio State defenders and it just ended up being overthrown.
Yep.
Like, he was behind the defense. So, the Badgers aren't doing a ton of intermediate passing. Like, that was kind of Clay Cundiff's thing, and, he's probably done for the year. But, the Badgers, they have a little bit of a sneaky downfield attack.
You're used to ground and pound, but yeah, we've been throwing a lot of deep shots so far.
Yeah. So the matchup that I'm still watching Graham Mertz because, like I said, I believe he passes the eye test better than he passes the box score test. So I'm still watching Graham Mertz. I don't know if that's the matchup you're watching as well.
Yeah. Again, for the psychological reasons, I want to see how he responds. He was on the road, and he was in my 3 stars for, going out there and playing courageously. Let's see him have a good game, and I want to see him ball out, spin that motherfucker like I was saying a couple weeks ago. So I'm looking at Graham Mertz as well. He's not my X factor, but
I like your narrative of a bounce back game too. I think that's interesting. Switching to the Badgers' defense against Illinois' offense, I think, like Jake said, some of their stats are a little misleading due to their opponents, but Illinois does have the 9th most rushes per game. They run the ball on average 46 times a game. That's a lot.
Yeah.
I think the Badgers run the ball a lot. That's a lot.
Yeah.
They're 14th in rush yards per game, at 225 yards rushing per game. The Badgers are only allowing 143.
Yep.
So that'll be interesting to see. They're 99th in yards per pass. So I brought up the Badgers being 16th in yards per pass. Illinois is 99th.
That's how they're not very good.
To me, that suggests that the Badger cornerbacks can play close to the line of scrimmage because they're not looking to throw the ball downfield, whether it's from a lack of opportunity or just a lack of talent. I think the latter is a little more true because if you're playing Chattanooga, I have a feeling the opportunities to throw the ball deep are there. And you're just
sorry, Chattanooga, but
sorry.
it's true.
Yeah. the Badgers do allow the 7th lowest completion percentage. Illinois' completion percentage is about 67%. The Badgers are allowing just over 51%.
Mm-hmm.
What I am looking at is interceptions, and I'm going to get back to this in a second. Illinois turns the ball over interceptions about 2% of their passes. The Badgers intercept passes at 7%.
Yeah, we have a bunch of people with picks.
That's a lot of interceptions. That's a high percentage. But I'll let you talk about the Badgers the Badgers defense against Illinois' offense, and then give me your matchup.
So the thing that I'm going to focus on here is the third down percentage. People were freaking out after the Ohio State game because Ohio State was very third down, 7 of 11, I believe it was. But
that's
the Badgers,
their identity too. That's nothing new. That's not
right.
anything the Badgers just allowed them to do. They were 11 of 13 the week before.
Right. The Badgers, they only allow 35%. And I say only, which is 45th in the country, by the way, tied with a bunch of teams. Last year, everybody thought that defense was so great, and it was. We had a lot of, and to Alvarez's point, he talked about, experienced players. We have a lot of experienced players. So last year, we were 5th in third down percentage at the end of the season, and we only gave up 29%. So, just hold your horses a little bit. The third down percentage will trickle down as we play lesser opponents.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's the thing that I wanted to point out. And my matchup I'm watching is Chase Brown. That's their running back. You stole a little bit of my thunder, but I'm glad that you brought it up. I'm glad I wasn't the only one thinking about it. All their rushing and what they do. And Bielema is kind of that guy. He runs the ball a lot. He's very Wisconsin-esque in that way. First, the Wisconsin inside linebackers, because to me, they both had piss poor games. They weren't getting deep enough in their pass sets. When they were flowing to the line, they weren't watching the ball. I mean, that freaking play fake where the tight end went wide open, I was just like, are you fucking
that dude's going to be in the NFL. Like, I'm watching him, and like, we're past the results of, the Badgers coming back to win. So, I start watching for more, intangible things, and it's like, I kind of want that dude in the Packers. I'm not going to lie.
Dude, he's athletic as hell.
Like last year, seeing Jeremy Ruckert coming out of Ohio State, it's like, I don't want to touch that guy with a 10-foot pole. Seeing Stover, like, he looked real good.
Bro, he's a converted linebacker. That's crazy. But, Jordan Turner, and I'm not even going to try to say the other guy's name.
That's Njong Meta.
I have it written down. I'm still not going to try it. It looks like puke on my paper, but they got to play better. Point blank period.
My
guy. They got to play better.
I put in Njong Meta because he did so well tackling against New Mexico State, and I'm hyping him up. And he's the Badgers' leading tackler, and he's got 20 tackles through 3 games. And then against Ohio State, it seemed like he just kind of forgot how to tackle.
He still was the leading tackler, but they were all down the
field. He could have had more. There were some broken tackles, especially in that first drive, where it's just like, okay, yep, they just marched right down.
Yeah.
So I'm looking to see. I'm watching Njong Meta to see if he can kind of correct that. So, that said, who is your X factor?
So my X factor is Braylon Allen. And I kind of alluded to this before, but I'm just waiting for him to have a Braylon Allen game. A game where you just like. I remember watching that game because Braylon Allen fucking owned. Like he you want him
to have a traditional Wisconsin running back game where he has like
225
yards and 4 touchdowns kind of thing.
I think we need it. Like, honestly, like, I think the fan base needs it. I think the team needs it for some energy. Like, it just feels like a necessity at this point, not even just a want for my own, selfish needs. It feels like a necessity. So I'm really looking for Braylon Allen to dominate a lesser opponent in Illinois.
I went with John Torchio, actually. I mentioned those interception rates for a reason. The Badgers they're intercepting the ball. 7% of passes. That's a lot.
Yeah, it is.
So I feel like John Torchio can swing momentum at any time. Obviously, he did in week 1 when he had the 100-yard pick 6. And I'm just going to pat myself on the back for calling it that John Torchio would have C.J. Stroud's first interception, and he did. So I went with John Torchio. I feel like he can swing that momentum. And I just want to see if the Badgers can keep up a stupid high interception percentage.
That's very fair. I mean, I would love to watch a 100-yard pick six. Won't lie to you.
Yeah, I'm totally there for that. Give me your key to victory for this one.
Run the ball, stop the run. They're gonna want to run the damn ball. I'm not counting those other games. I know they played them. I don't give a shit. So I looked at Chase Brown's stats versus Indiana because that's the one viable opponent he had. He had 36 carries for 199 yards, 32 receiving yards, and a touchdown. Yeah, dude. Stop the run. Do not hold them to short gains. And then let's get Braylon Allen cooking, get him some confidence again, and then we'll be good to go.
Derrick Henry's going to try to get Mike Vrabel fired so that he can have Brett Bielema as his coach.
You're right. Just hand the ball to me 40 times.
36 carries?
And
oh my God, that's insane.
He had 4 catches too, so he touched the ball 40 fucking times.
40 touches. Holy hell.
Yeah.
All right. I went with
set the tone
early. I went with set the tone early. Let Illinois and Brett Bielema know who's in charge early. Basically due to Illinois what Ohio State did at Wisconsin. This is how I feel about it. So just setting the tone early, letting them know that, hey, last week we were a little outmatched and we're back to show you that we're not just a pushover team that got beat by a number 3 team in the country. So that said, we're going to 2 score predictions, one from the head, one from the heart. So give me your score prediction from the head, your more analytical position on your score prediction.
So my prediction from the head is 21-10.
21-10. It's kind of low scoring, honestly. I went with a similar margin of victory, but for the head, I went 31-17.
Ooh, okay.
So give me your prediction from the heart.
You're going to love this. My prediction from the heart is 31-17.
Oh, look at us.
I knew you were going to love it.
My prediction from the heart is very much similar to the New Mexico State game. My prediction from the heart is 56-21.
Holy fuck.
I'm buying as far as my heart is concerned, I'm buying the revenge game. I like what I've seen from Graham Mertz. I know so many people are like, he's not it. He wouldn't be a Division III high school quarterback. And it's like, really? Like, you got to know you're saying dumb shit at that point, right? Like, you got to know that you're saying super dumb shit, right?
I mean, they are. They don't know that, which is why they're saying it. But
that's just
because this is why I hate trolls. Because there's actually dumb people that say stupid shit, and they don't know that they're that stupid because people just be like, oh, you're trolling.
Like just 2 weeks ago, we played New Mexico State. They have 2 really bad quarterbacks.
Yeah.
I bet they would love to have Graham Mertz.
Yeah, they would.
New Mexico State would love to have Graham Mertz in their program.
So in Illinois.
That's true. So, the revenge narrative, coming off the big loss, wanting to kind of release some of the frustration from that. You mentioned the Braylon Allen game. I'm looking at Graham Mertz. I mean, looking at the defense to see if they can bounce back. That's why I went from the heart. All things go right. I think this could be a blowout like that.
I could see it. I went a little more conservative than I usually do.
I get it. Especially coming off a loss where, didn't feel like very many things went right. We're still going to come in. Guess what? We're still going to find positive takeaways. We found a way to put fucking Graham Mertz in our 3 stars after people were saying that he ain't it and he's a D3 high school quarterback. And we still found ways to put him into our 3 stars. And we didn't talk about that before the show.
No. Like I said, I kind of did that to spite people because it's like, are you really that stupid? Like, are you really that stupid? Do you really think Graham Mertz sucks that bad? Like, come on.
Listen. All right, so here's the thing. And I knew we were going to go to this before the show. I talked to you about it yesterday already. And here's the thing. We like to say that optimism is free. I said it to Ben Brust when he tweeted that he wasn't excited for the Badger game, that Graham Mertz was going to throw 2 touchdowns, and then he threw his interception or throw 2 interceptions, and then he throws the first one, and he tweets out 1. Like, really? You're really counting to be correct on your negative prediction? You want to be right about that? You want to be right about the Brewers missing the playoffs so you can be like, oh, I called it. You want that? You want that feeling. You're telling me that you want to feel right about predicting something negative about your team. Sign me up for the Brewers still have a chance way before you will ever find me saying, I hope the Brewers miss the playoffs because I said they would. Fuck that. Jake and I have this platform now, and, we don't have 1 million followers. We have just shy of 5,000, but listen, we're not doing this strictly because we want to talk shit about our teams. We've taken a mindset of wanting to find more ways to be optimistic and positive about our teams, actually. Mm-hmm. And we wanted that to translate to not only our lives, but to others. And, we've had a couple examples of it in our comments and people that we've gotten to know from doing the show. So, it's not a position where, I can't wrap my head around why you want to be proved right about that shit. Why you want to be proved right about a negative prediction. I can't understand it.
For the sake of arguing. That's why.
Like, ego. We've talked about this before where it's like you would rather make a negative prediction or predict that something doesn't go well and be able to say, I told you so, more than you want to actually put some optimism in your team. And, I get people are trying to save themselves from a big letdown, but you're letting yourself down before the event even happens.
Yeah.
So you'd rather be down and have to be lifted up than to stay up and then, deal with the potential of, not meeting the best expectations or the best possible outcome. You'd rather live worst case scenario and then have it get better. Like, why would you want to do that? And, like I said, when Scary Alvarez was on, I've been told that I believe in unicorns and fairies because I choose an optimistic mindset. I've been told that it's just coach talk or, that it's sunshines and rainbows or my head is in the clouds. I would rather be that and be that positive and optimistic person and have my head in the clouds because the alternative is having your head in hell. And let me be honest with you, I am so fucking serious. I have been there so many fucking times that I will not go back to having my head in hell. I've chosen to change it, and I'm not going back to it. So if that's the only way you see it is being optimistic, it means you have your head in the clouds, then I guess that's where I'm at.
Yeah. I hear you there, buddy. I hear you there. I don't even have anything to add. That was beautifully said.
I had a rant ready to go. Like I get that the amount of people that have responded negatively when I tell them, you can be optimistic, it's okay, or like the Brewers are not out of it, or this could still happen, or whatever it is, and people do the heads in your clouds, or this is a dumbass post, the Brewers are done, or the Brewers are a 500 team, like all that stuff. The number of people that have said stuff like that is low, but the fact of the matter is that the most negative voices are always, I shouldn't say always, but often the loudest. And people so desperately want to cling to their negativity that they will go out of their way to push it on you than to be open to the idea of changing your mindset to a positive and optimistic one.
It's pretty fucking sad, isn't it?
And that's what Jake and I want to change, honestly. We're choosing to do it through the lens of Wisconsin sports analysis, and that's a weird vehicle to drive that bus with, but that's what we're doing because that's what we know. And that's what we love too.
Fucking A.
So
fucking A, man. That's how I feel about that. Fucking A. I fucking love sports, man. I do, seriously. And we talked about it a couple weeks ago. We could just change one person's mind. Say we're only changing one person's mind every month. That's fucking 12 people we're having every fucking year. And that makes me goddamn proud, okay? It makes me feel good to make people happy.
That's cool. Like, honestly, like I feel cool if I tell people, we're trying to improve the mental health of our viewers by having them, hear us talk about Wisconsin sports from an optimistic and positive viewpoint. Because there's not much of that out there. There really isn't. And, when it comes to mainstream sports media, all that shit is predicated on drama and disagreement and arguing.
Mm-hmm.
So, we would prefer inclusion and respect to that. But unfortunately, it's not always what leads people to click on your stuff because they'd rather see the drama. But, that's what Jake and I are doing is going for the improvement and growth as opposed to the drama and arguing.
Yeah, man, we're just we always talk shit on Wisconsin sports heroics. But it's like we're just being honest with our approach. We're being our genuine selves. We haven't changed who we are on our personal social media pages. We're still ourselves. So this is the approach that we're taking, and we're going to trust it. And, maybe like Alvarez, maybe one day we'll win the Rose Bowl.
Yeah, I mean we've had a couple examples. Like Matt, I think is a really good example. He watches the show a lot. Of that, he's come around on it. That he's changed his mindset from all the negative takeaways to looking for positive takeaways, and that feels good. It feels good to make that impact on somebody.
Yeah,
because if you can do that for your favorite Wisconsin sports teams, then you can translate it to your life. Like, the hope is that we could change people's lives, which would be awesome.
One day our message will be spread across the world, and we're going to be like fucking filthy rich, like new Jeff Bezos, dude. I'm telling you, I feel it.
Yeah, and hopefully the ability for us to be able to change the way that people think to help them have better lives. That's the goal that Jake and I are always going to work towards. In addition to having quality sports analysis on top of it.
Yeah, it's pretty cool to talk about the Packers.
Which we will be doing Friday. So if you want to hear us talk about the Packers, we'll be doing that on Friday night. We'll have Simon and Bryant with us for that. That'll be Friday night at 8 o'clock.
That's going to be fun.
Talking about the Buccaneers and previewing the Patriots game. So that'll be Friday night.
Under how many times we talk about Brady being a dumbass.
Oh man.
For the delay game.
7.
7? I might. I'm not even going to be in it because I put the over-under out there. I'm going to leave it to Simon and Bryant. And Bryant by himself will do it 7 times.
He probably would.
Because that's his personality.
And Simon will say it right before we end off on the show.
Yeah, and he'll be like, oh, Bryant said it, and I meant to say it.
Yeah, right. I was just going to bring that up. But yeah, we will be back on Friday night. Is there anything else you want to throw out there?
Simon, you're fired. And let him go first this week because I swear to God, if he's not prepared, because he wasn't prepared week 1. I didn't forget. If he's not prepared this week and he goes first, I'm on his ass. I'm telling you right now. I'm on his ass.
All right, man. I will see you Friday night then. Everybody, thanks for watching, even through our profanity-laden rants at the end of the show there.
We had to get it out.
Yeah, that's true. All right, man. See you Friday night.